I watched her smile at my son as she handed him the bright pink drink, and something inside me tightened before I even understood why. "Go on, Billy. I made this just for you," she said in that warm, easy tone she used so well. I stepped in without drawing attention. I bent down like I had just noticed his shoelace coming undone. While I reached for it with one hand, I smoothly lifted the glass from his grip with the other. I set it down casually on the side table beside Derek, who was absorbed in his phone and completely unaware. Then I picked up his untouched drink, identical in every detail, same color, same umbrella, same pineapple slice, and placed it back in Billy's hands. Nothing looked different. Same glass, same smile, same party. No one noticed the switch. Lisa had already turned away, laughing with someone across the room, moving through my house like she belonged there, like she had already decided it was hers. 5 minutes later, Derek's hand went to his throat. But I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on her. That's the moment people always come back to when I tell this story. They ask why I didn't stop it, why I didn't say something immediately. The truth is simple. I didn't know for certain. Not in a way that would justify accusing someone in the middle of a family gathering. Not with enough proof to shatter everything if I turned out to be wrong. But I had a feeling. A very specific, cold kind of instinct that had been sitting in the background for 14 months. I had ignored it, dismissed it, blamed it on grief. I stopped ignoring it the second I saw her glance at Billy. Not in concern, but in expectation. She was checking him for a reaction that never came. For just a fraction of a second, I saw relief cross her face. Then it disappeared. The mask came back. In that moment, I knew. To explain how I got there, I need to go back 14 months. My wife, Emily, died suddenly one morning in February. She had an undiagnosed brain aneurysm. She was 34 years old. That morning had been completely ordinary. She was in the kitchen making coffee. Billy was 6. I was in the shower. By the time I came downstairs, she was gone. The coffee maker was still running. I could smell it as I tried to perform CPR. That ordinary smell burned into a moment where everything changed forever. I won't try to explain grief in detail. If you've experienced it, you already understand. If you haven't, no description will truly convey it. What I can explain is what it does to you. It makes you vulnerable. It lowers your defenses. You trust people more easily than you should. You accept help without examining motives because you don't have the capacity to question anything deeply. And every small act of kindness feels meaningful. Lisa stepped directly into that vulnerability. She was Emily's older sister, 41 years old. Always perfectly put together in a way that felt maintained rather than natural. She and Emily had never been particularly close. Emily mentioned it occasionally, but never in detail, and I never pushed her to explain. After Emily died, Lisa became a constant presence. She brought meals. She handled paperwork. She organized things before I even realized they needed attention. She knew where important documents were before I did. She had opinions about Billy's therapist, his school, and even the house. Looking back, the word that fits best is simple. She positioned herself. Her husband, Derek, was quiet and withdrawn. He worked in insurance and carried himself like someone who had spent years adapting to a stronger personality. He followed her lead in everything. In 6 years, I'd had maybe a few real conversations with him, and even those didn't reveal much about who he was. By the time Billy turned 7, I had started to regain some stability. He had his mother's laugh, quick and full. He was obsessed with baseball cards. He had mild asthma and carried his inhaler everywhere, clipped to his belt. He was the reason I came back to myself, not because the grief disappeared, but because he needed me to be present. The housewarming party represented something real. I had bought the house 8 months after Emily passed. It was smaller, in a different neighborhood, with no connection to our previous life. I spent months rebuilding parts of it myself. Hardwood floors in the kitchen, string lights in the living room, a backyard fence that I installed myself. slightly uneven in one section, which I chose to leave as it was. That night, everything felt right. Family gathered, about 24 people. Food laid out across the kitchen, kids running through the yard. It was a good evening, until the drink. 7 months after Emily's death, during a period when I was barely functioning, Lisa had approached me about signing some documents. "Just practical things," she said gently. "You're a single parent now. We need to make sure everything is protected, just in case." She repeated those words, "just in case," several times. I signed a power of attorney. Before Emily died, I was a rational person, a structural engineer with a clear understanding of documents and systems. But at that time, I wasn't fully present. The words on the page didn't fully connect. A year later, while looking for Billy's vaccination records, I found my copy of that document. I read it carefully. Clause 14. B. Temporary guardianship of any minor would transfer to the designated agent if I were deemed unable to provide care. The designated agent was Lisa. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. My coffee went cold. Then I checked my bank records. 11 months earlier, I had added Lisa to a household account to help manage bills. 6 months later, she removed herself, but not before making 14 transfers to her own account. The descriptions looked normal: household support, emergency groceries, family assistance. The total amount was $43,800. As a structural engineer, I understand load-bearing systems. I understand what supports a structure and what slowly weakens it. This wasn't random, but I didn't have enough to prove intent. Then came the party. At 7:20 p.m., I saw Lisa in the kitchen preparing drinks. Pink, fizzy, decorated. She was laughing, engaging, playing her role perfectly. At 7:34, I heard her voice shift slightly, lower, controlled. I caught Billy's name. When I entered, she was crouched in front of him, holding the drink with both hands, watching him take it. Her expression was focused. It wasn't how someone looks at a child they care about. That's when I acted. At 7:51, Derek collapsed. The sound of his coughing cut through everything. People reacted immediately. The room shifted into chaos. I stayed where I was. I watched Lisa. She froze for a few seconds. Her eyes moved quickly, from Derek to Billy to the shattered glass. Then she adjusted instantly. "He must be allergic," she said, loud and controlled. But she kept glancing at Billy, waiting. I went to the kitchen. I took a syringe from the first aid kit. I collected the remaining liquid from the original glass, the one meant for my son, and sealed it in a jar. I placed it in the refrigerator. My hands were steady. Not because I was calm, but because something inside me had shifted into clarity. The EMTs arrived shortly after. Derek was conscious but disoriented. He was taken to the hospital. Lisa went with him. The next morning, I contacted a private lab. Within 48 hours, they confirmed the presence of a powerful sedative. At the concentration detected, it would have caused unconsciousness in a child, possibly worse, especially with asthma. I took the results to my attorney. She reviewed everything: the financial records, the document, the toxicology report. Then we obtained the final piece, an audio recording. My cousin had accidentally captured Lisa's voice. "It's not enough. He needs to drink all of it." That was the confirmation I needed. I brought everything to the police. 11 days later, Lisa came to my house. She wore concern like a costume. She brought food. She spoke gently. 14 months of careful positioning. I looked at her and saw everything clearly. She hadn't loved her sister. She had wanted her life. "I have a lawyer," I told her, "and a forensic report, and a recording." Her expression changed instantly. "You can't prove anything," she said quietly. "I already have," I replied. She left without another word. She was arrested 2 days later. I found out while sitting at Billy's baseball practice, watching him swing and miss, then adjust and try again. I stayed there. I didn't interrupt that moment. 6 weeks later, I saw her in court. No performance, no mask, just the truth. Derek filed for divorce soon after. The money was recovered. The power of attorney was voided. Billy is 8 now. His asthma is under control. He still loves baseball cards. Now he wants to learn how to cook. We cook together on weekends. Music playing, kitchen messy. Sometimes I think about that night. The pink drink, the umbrella. That single decision. I switched the glasses. That's all I did. Everything else was already there. I just chose to trust what I felt.